23rd June is celebrated in Canada as the National Day of Remembrance for Victims of Terrorism. Because back in 1985, an Air India flight from Montreal to London was bombed by Inderjeet Singh Nijjar and his co-terrorists. And all 329 people on board, most of them Canadians, were killed ruthlessly. To this day, it remains the worst terror attack in Canadian history. But it seems like Canada has not learnt its lessons, with Justin Trudeau accusing the Indian government of killing Khalistani leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar in June this year. It has further deepened the cracks between the two nations when it comes to the separatist movement.
Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
Since this was brought to our attention, we've been guided by three principles. The first one, we will seek the truth. The second one, we will protect Canadians at all times. And thirdly, we will protect Canada's sovereignty. I've conveyed these principles to my Indian counterpart, and I've also told him that we expect India's full collaboration to make sure that we get to the bottom of this. And as of today, and as a consequence, we've expelled a top Indian diplomat from Canada.
India has always maintained that Canada must not allow anti-India activities from its soil. Case in point, the G20 summit, where India put out a firmly worded statement asking Canada to not support extremism. Now, Trudeau had replied at a press conference saying his government supports freedom of expression. Before we get into the details of what exactly it means for the relationship between the two countries, let's quickly get you a brief history of the Khalistani movement. Now, this issue goes back 45 years. Immigration of Sikhs into Canada started in the first decade of the 20th century, and by the 1970s, Sikhs were a visible section of the Canadian society. Now, in those years, the sentiment of the Khalistan movement in Punjab gained prominence. With generational ties to Canada, many Sikhs sought refugee status in Canada, citing alleged political persecution during the partition and after it. Suddenly, there was an influx of Khalistanis into a country that did little to curb their separatism. Now, among those who made their base was Talvinder Singh Parmar, considered the mastermind of the terrorist bombing of Air India Flight 182. Now, the Khalistan movement peaked in the 1980s and 90s in India, and the violent campaign included bombings, assassinations, kidnappings, and selective killings and massacres of civilians. In response to the movement and in an attempt to end militancy in the state of Punjab, which was led by Jarnail Singh Bhindranwala, Indian security forces responded with force. The then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi ordered Operation Blue Star, which was followed by Black Thunder, and these two operations saw bombings and loss of lives on both the sides. And with Operation Blue Star, it was at the revered Sikh place of worship, the Golden Temple. The movement eventually died down in India in the 90s, but it has stayed alive and has been latently supported by successive Canadian governments. In fact, in 2019, the Canadian federal elections, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party got 157 votes, which is just 13 short of a majority to make government in that country. And they formed a coalition government with the New Democratic Party led by Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal, who, by the way, is a pro-Khalistan leader. So is Trudeau's statement more of a political damage control back home? Why does Canada support Khalistanis? And what does it mean for the India-Canada relations, which now stare at a bitter standoff?